Rotation is finally here, and with it we got the new set Journey Together, with the introduction of Trainers Pokemon. Unfortunately, a lot of them are pretty underwhelming, with the Hops cards being some of the best of them. Now I think the most logical spot to play the Hops package is in the Archaludon deck, since we have Zacian. There's a 230 HP basic metal Pokemon with a couple of really good attacks. Its first attack for colorless does 30 and 30 to one of the opponent's bench Pokemon. Then for 3 metal and a colorless, it does 240 damage, and we can't use this attack next turn. Now this is kind of the perfect starter for the Archaludon deck. In the past, Archaludon wanted to go first and evolve up as quick as possible, but now I think we want to go second and try and get a Zacian in the active and start putting on pressure right away. We can even use the first attack for free with Hops Choice Band that says the Hops Pokemon this card is attached to costs 1 colorless less, and they do 30 more damage to the active. So we're able to use an energy to retreat our active if we don't start Zacian, and then use just the Choice Band to attack with it. Now the Hops Snorlax says that our Hops Pokemon do 30 more damage to the active, and it does not stack. And the Stadium also has the same effect where it raises our Hops Pokemon attacks by 30. So that makes the numbers that the Zacian does really good. Like I said, 120 with the first attack, and we can do up to 330 damage with the second attack, which is a really solid number because most of the good stage 2 EXs have 330 HP or less. We also play a 1/1 line of the Hops Dubwool that says when we evolve it, it is a boss's order effect. We do only play a 1/1 line of it. I was playing a 2/2 for a while, but I cut down to 1/1 because bench space is really tight in this deck. Like, I'm going to show the kind of ideal board later, and if we bench 2 of the Wooloos, we run out of bench space really quickly. I am playing one of the Hops Cramorant. This card is definitely cuttable. I was considering cutting it, but I've left it in here for now just because it seems pretty solid and is a nice option to have, and it's like a fine enough way to deal with Mimikyu, even though if we do cut it, we can still use either Snorlax or the Dubwool to knock out any Mimikyu. So yeah. The Cramorant says it does 120 damage, but it only does damage if our opponent is at 4 or 3 prize cards. So if we attack with it and our opponent just bosses up another 2 prize Pokemon and knocks it out, we have Cramorant stuck on our bench for the rest of the game when it can't really do anything. So I've kept it in here for now because it is a solid way to kind of throw off the prize trade and make a little bit of a comeback. Like, it can one-shot a Fezandipiti with all the damage modifiers, but I suppose even if it was gone, Snorlax could kind of fill the same spot. The only difference is Snorlax has to have an energy preemptively attached to it to be able to use the attack, and Cramorant doesn't. I also have an Iron Bundle in here. Sometimes it's just nice to be able to push stuff out of the active, and especially at the beginning of the game, if our opponent just has like a Badoo in the active and like a Dreepy on the bench, all we need is the Zacian and the band in the stadium and our Iron Bundle to effectively donk them by knocking out both their Pokemon in play. They also have Squawkabilly, Fezandipiti, and Mew EX in here. Squawk is really nice because we want to go second, like I said, and push for a solid turn 1, so we definitely want that extra draw option. Fez is just broken, it's probably going to be in every single deck. And I put Mew in here because I've been noticing with a lot of the games that I play in this new format, just like even Iono to 4 or 3 can be pretty devastating. So having Mew as an option to always be able to play our hand down and draw seems pretty good. And I guess technically we can attach to it 3 times an attack if we ever need to. Alright, and the supporter line for research, of course, is just the best supporter, especially now that Arven is a little underwhelming. I still am playing 2 Arven in here. Like I was saying, we want to find our tool, and it's also an out to our switch card, our Prime Catcher, or energy. So yeah, we got that. 2 boss. Only got 2 boss because we have that Prime Catcher and the Dubwool as ways to gust, so that seems like a good amount of gusting. Just 1 Iono. Having hand disruption is really nice. I don't really like playing decks that have 0 hand disruption, so I have the 1 Iono in here for now. A Turo. Turo's just always good. There's a lot of Wellspring Ogerpon using Sob, and our Pokemon have enough HP where we could want to heal them. Like in matchups where we want to attack with the Archaludon, it would be nice to have the option to heal, so yeah. Also, I'm messing around with a Surfer in here right now. Like I said about the Wellspring Ogerpon, there's like a lot of decks that seem to be playing that right now. Having a supporter way to switch is nice, and it also draws cards. It says switch your active Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon. If you do, draw cards up to 5. If it said drop to 6, it would be way better than it is, but it's been pretty solid for now, even as just a switch. Maybe Kieran would be better, but the supporter count is kind of low in this deck right now, so I went with Surfer instead. I think this is the ideal board that I've been going for on the first turn of the game. There's only 4 bench Pokemon because sometimes the 5th bench Pokemon has to be Squawkabilly. Sometimes you can just flip-flop the Wooloo with a second Zacian, but this has kind of been what I've been going for, and this has been feeling pretty solid. And whenever we have the chance, we definitely want to float an energy on the Snorlax because it is a liability to get stuck in the active. But if we have 1 energy on it, we are able to just hand attach a second energy and attach the Hop's Choice Band and start attacking with it. So that's definitely something that I try to, do when I have the chance. And if we don't have to use Squawkabilly, we can kind of go for a board like this. Just the second Zacian. Pivoting in this deck can be kind of tricky sometimes, so it is nice to think ahead to the next turn and try and get an extra attacker down. If the Zacian isn't on the bench, it's kind of fine too. We can just promote the Duraludon and evolve into Archaludon, start attacking with that. And kind of the game plan I've been going for in almost every matchup is at the beginning of the game, I'll just use the Insta Strike as many times as possible, start slowly building energy in play, and try and knock out evolving basics and kind of set up math for later on in the game. And I find that it's usually pretty reliable to take the first 2 prizes with Zacian's first attack, and then we can take the second 2 prizes with Zacian's second attack, and usually finish off the game with like boss on a Fezandipiti with Archaludon. It's a pretty decent prize map for this deck, and it's been working out pretty well. This deck's been feeling pretty solid so far, and I think it definitely has potential to be a solid threat in the meta. Shout out to all the channel members, and let's get into the games. Alright, this first game, my opponent won the coin flip and chose to go first. I'm adjusting the audio there. I don't know why my recording software has not been picking up the audio from live. I thought I had it figured out for this video, but it does not seem like it worked. So yeah, this is the Terra Box deck that we're up against, which is kind of seeming like it might end up being the best deck so far in the meta. Either that or like some kind of wall deck. Of course, everyone's still figuring everything out, but I think that's what a lot of people are assuming, that this is going to be one of the best decks. I top deck Prime Catcher, which is a little awkward. I was thinking about using Nest Ball for Zacian and just going Prime Catcher, Hoot Zacian, but that would leave me with a dead hand, so I'm going to Prime Catcher before I bench anything so that I'm just able to, retreat the Wooloo into the Zacian hopefully after the fact. I do have to kind of get rid of one of the tool cards, which is kind of unfortunate, but we do draw into an Arven, so that is going to end up working out. I can just grab Nest Ball and Choice Band. I did prize one, but usually only need a couple of those. I've been finding 3 feels like a really solid number. Like this exact situation, of course, it doesn't feel the best because we kind of had to burn one right away, but that'll be fine. Now I'm just thinking about where I want to put the 30 damage. I think I end up putting it, on the Fan Rotom because the Fan Rotom can't evolve. So hopefully over the course of the game, I'll be like almost guaranteed an extra prize off that on the bench. Of course they can promote it, which is a little awkward. I do have boss in hand though, so I will be able to, boss like a Hoot if they bench another one. So I'm assuming they're evolving this one because they do have Noctowl in hand. So hopefully if they bench another one, which it looks like they are, I can just boss that next turn and knock that out and then put 30 more damage on the Fan Rotom. My opponent plays a Nest Ball. They get the Pikachu here, which I'll admit that is kind of terrifying. I thought that by knocking out one of their Hoots, they would have almost no way to get a Pikachu attack off. Is kind of what I was thinking last turn, which I would have knocked out the Hoot either way because I had to ditch the Prime Catcher, so might as well use it. Which with the Crispin, it looks like they are going to be able to knock out my Zacian. This is a little weird. I will be able to like Night Stretcher for my Zacian back and attach to it. I don't know, this is kind of an awkward spot. I might even have to pass for the turn if I'm not able to find a switch card. Which is one thing I've been noticing about this deck. Maybe the Cramorant would be a little bit better as just like a rescue board, just to be able to set up a pivot, because like hands like this, can be really awkward where we weren't able to bench our attacker for next turn. So yeah, now I have to hard retreat. I don't have another tool, so I have no way to attack. I'm kind of forced to use the Surfer. I don't use the Surfer. I end up Ionoing to try and hit the Switch card, which I don't. And I can get Fez and see if I hit it, but not really the end of the world. This format has been a lot slower, so being able to like take a turn off like this hasn't been as punishing as it has been in the past, which is, I think, like a nice refreshing change. I'm hoping it kind of stays like this. I imagine it kind of will against a deck like this, especially because they're not going to use their Pikachu to knock out my Wooloo. That just doesn't make any sense. They want to probably just knock out 3 2-price Pokemon. And if they were to knock out my Wooloo, I would imagine that they would use the Rotom, would probably be the best way to go about it. And next turn, I'm kind of hoping to get into a switch card. They do end up switching into the Wellspring, which is kind of nice. That keeps my Wooloo alive, so I'm pretty happy about that. I would rather it be alive. Now I have the ability to gust this turn if I were to draw into my my Dubwool and my switch card. I don't, of course, so yeah, it doesn't look like that's gonna happen. I just Vessel to thin out the deck, get another energy in the discard. I am going to attach this to the Wooloo this turn, so that next turn I have the option to draw into the Dubwool, use the gust effect on it, and then hard retreat it, because evolving the Wooloo will just remove the Sob effect, which is kind of nice. We do end up drawing into, I think that was the last energy in the deck, which is kind of unfortunate. It seems like there weren't like the best odds for that to happen, but it did. And we do end up getting into the Ultra Ball. I could have used the Pokégear there and looked for Surfer, but I figured I didn't even want to bother. I want to be able to gust this turn. Hitting the Pikachu for, 90 damage isn't really all that good. We do end up hitting the switch off of the prizes. That is kind of lucky, I'm not gonna lie. And now we kind of have a clear path to victory, which is boss, either the Noctowl, or if they bench another Hoo-Hoo, which I kind of imagine they will, because this deck kind of relies on streaming Noctowls every turn. The deck barely plays any draw supporters, so if they don't have access to a Noctowl, they have pretty low odds of doing anything meaningful on their turn. So hopefully we'll bench a Hoo-Hoo. I'll be able to knock it out with boss and also finish off the Fan Rotom, and then the turn after that, knock out either the grass or the water Ogre Pond with an Archaludon. And yeah, should be good to win the game, as long as they don't knock out my Zacian this turn, which based on their last turn, I don't really think they will. And they do just decide to boss up my Squawkabilly, which would be annoying, but it's not. I got the switch card off the prizes. I was kind of lucky. I was debating between using Surfer or the Switch, but I kind of like the Surfer in the deck as an option off Iono to draw a couple cards and a switch, because it seems like they might be kind of committing to the Sob angle if they can't get a meaningful attack off with Pikachu this turn. They do end up deciding to just promote their Wellspring Ogre Pond. They have seen a couple switching cards, so maybe they're assuming that I don't have another way to switch, and they're probably going to boss up my Dubwool or my Squawkabilly and try and lock that in the active until I deck out, which is like fair enough of a strategy at this point. I do only have 11 cards left in deck. The only kind of downside to them doing that for them is that they're leaving a Pokemon that I can just one-shot with an Archaludon in the active spot. So yeah, do have Surfer in hand, so they're gonna have to disrupt me to go for the Sob angle, and I'm pretty sure Turo is in the deck as well, it looks like. So I don't think that they really have any chance of being able to win the game by like sobbing my Squawkabilly 8 times, or enough times to set up like a 4-price turn, I guess. Oh, they do just end up sobbing my Zacian. Kind of forgot about that. They didn't even get the boss, so yeah, we just evolved to Archaludon and win. pretty solid dub against what is touted to be the best deck in the format. Of course, they were having a little bit of trouble getting their Noctowls out, but I do think that that deck is just kind of inherently a little clunky, so I will definitely take that win. Alright, this is kind of a shorter game, but I wanted to throw this in here because I've been running into just a lot of kind of weird stuff like this. I think maybe people are just trying to rank up on the ladder as quick as possible, get to like Arceus tier without really having to play the game, because this is a fire poison donk deck, I think. I don't know, it's kind of confusing. They have a lot of the Terra Pokemon, so maybe their plan is to, like, if they don't just win by donking, to try and sob stuff, keep it in the active and set up big turns for the torrential pump attack or whatever it is. But they do retreat into the Petrunt, so now I am in a pretty decent spot to take 2 prizes on this turn, and I am gonna bench my Squawkabilly and the Wooloo and the Snorlax. There's quite a few switching cards in the deck, and that's kind of what I was checking right here, so I'm not too worried about them trapping stuff in the active. I should, in theory, only need 2 switches to win the game, so I'm going to take 2 prizes here, and then, yeah, Prime Catcher, and then switch boss. But we do end up, I think, hitting everything we need. Yeah, we got everything we need to take the 2 prize turn, and that also means that I'm not going to get knocked out by Poison and Burn coming back into my turn, which is kind of nice. Here I'm just playing out the hand to get a couple of energy in the discard pile. That is, without Greninja, it is quite a bit harder to get energy in the discard for the Archaludon, so that's why I just vesseled and got rid of him. Had pretty good odds to draw into more energy, so I wasn't too worried about that. And attachments are a little bit more important in this deck than I originally thought. At first I wasn't prioritizing them as much, but the format, like I've said a couple times, it's a lot slower than it was before. And I have built up a Zacian with manual attachments a couple of times and just using the free attack on the active one. And yeah, my opponent just ends up conceding there, but I've had way too many games like that so far. And on to the next one. Alright, so I won the coin flip and chose to go second this game. We have a pretty solid hand. I can just Arven for like Nest Ball or Vessel and the tool card, and then squawk away the rest of the hand to, you know, hopefully get into another draw splitter. My opponent has a pretty underwhelming start here, so I am going to use Iron Bundle to knock out the Pidgey. They Ultra Balled away a Pidgeot, I'm pretty sure, if I'm remembering correctly, and that means, I'm guessing that means they have another one in hand. I don't know, maybe that's kind of a weird thing to assume, but that's what I'm going with, so I'm going to use the bundle. Here I'm just debating if I want to use it now and then Night Stretcher it back and re-put it on the bench, which I do end up deciding to do. I figure maybe next turn all that they have is a way to bench another Pidgey and pass, so I want to be able to use Iron Bundle again if I need to. This hand is definitely not the best. We also prized 2 of our Duraludon this game, which kind of stinks. I would definitely like to have that, especially in a matchup like this, where they have the fire attacker that can one-shot Zacian really easily, and Archaludon's attack removes weakness. So yeah, we're definitely going to be wanting that. Hoping to get one off the prizes. We didn't, but maybe we will later on. Another good thing about the bundle is since I put 30 on the Torchic here, I will be able to finish it off of the bench. And now the way that their board is currently set up, I think if I were to like top deck a boss or maybe Surfer into my Prime Catcher, I would just knock out both of the Torchics. I think that would put me in a pretty solid spot to win the game. So yeah, and I am just gonna play the hand down a little bit here. I could Vessel away the Archaludon. Maybe I should have. In hindsight, I could have just grabbed maybe 1 energy and attached it. I do decide to use Hyper Blower here, of course. It just lets me get more damage in play. I'd rather knock this guy off of the bench. And I figured they'd kind of send up the Fezandipiti. Like anything else they send up here puts them in a really awkward spot. So now this like decreases the chances that they'll be able to get a meaningful attack off next turn, because they need a way to retreat And if I just knocked out the Torchic out of the active, they could just go Candy, Blaziken, attach, and then use Blaziken's ability to accelerate extra fire to it and easily knock out my Zacian. So I think this is maybe the best possible outcome. Almost forgot to attach there, but luckily I remembered at the last second. And I did Nest Ball for a Wooloo. In hindsight, I was thinking I probably should have Nest Balled for the Snorlax to do enough damage to this Fezandipiti to be able to easily knock it out the next turn. Because now I need to top deck like Nest Ball or the Snorlax or Ultra Ball to be able to just knock out this Fez with Zacian's first attack. So maybe that was a little bit of a mistake. I think I was planning on Nest Balling for a Fezandipiti myself, but it was prized, or I remember that it was prized. I don't know. I don't have the best memory, but my opponent got Candy Pidgeot. They haven't used the Pidgeot yet, which now I'm assuming that they are going to be able to get out their Blaziken. They can grab, Candy. They do grab a counter gain here, which is, I don't know, a little bit scary because I don't think I'll be able to knock out this Blaziken next turn because, like I said, I didn't get the Snorlax, which maybe wasn't the smartest thing in the world. I'm still unsure about that. Maybe I probably should have just held the Nest Ball actually, but I did play it. I don't know why I thought that they would just maybe keep bricking. Probably something I shouldn't assume. My opponent retreats here into a Torchic. I guess they're thinking that they want to finish the game off with the Pokemon they have in play. So they're not going to need the Torchic, and it won't matter that I go on odd prizes if they only have 2 prize Pokemon left in play. So that kind of makes sense. I do top deck an Arven. I don't know how useful that would be to play right now. And I'm kind of thinking maybe next turn I can Arven for Prime Catcher and knock out their Pidgeot with my Zacian. Also, I put 30 damage onto the Blaziken so that I'm able to knock that out with all the stuff that I already have access to without having to get the Snorlax. As long as they don't play like a Monkey Dory, which basically every deck right now it seems to be playing Monkey Dory, so I'm not too optimistic about them not playing it. And they do get a Wellspring. Like I said, every deck I've been playing against has Wellspring and Monkey Dory. It's kind of wild. I guess these cards are pretty solid in the format right now, but it's a little bit annoying to play against, and it's kind of random. Like Monkey Dory, I get it's good against Dragapult. Sob is a strong attack, but I don't know. I'm like tech for it. I have plenty of Switch cards in my deck, and even if Wellspring wasn't super popular right now, I've noticed like just having mobility from the active to the bench is really important in this deck, so I like having access to enough Switch cards. They do end up Adrena Braining off of the Blaziken here, which kind of sucks. I might have knocked that out instead of the Pidgeot if they didn't do that, because that is like pretty much the biggest threat, and if I knock that out, they don't have another way to get Blaziken. They don't have another solid attacker in play if I do that. Yeah. So I do grab Prime Catcher, and I'm kind of unsure if I want to actually grab the Choice Band here or leave it in the deck, but I do end up grabbing it. There's no like tool removal anymore, so I'm not going to need to put it on either of these Zacians. And I guess I don't really need it because I'm going to Prime Catcher the Pidgeot, and then I'm just going to try to win with a boss's order at some point. Going down to 1 prize here is a little bit unfortunate, but I'm kind of hedging my bets that knocking out the Pidgeot will make it so that they can't do anything super impactful. It's kind of what I'm hoping. So I go with that. And if they don't disrupt my hand, I can always just retreat into my Archaludon and knock out anything on their board except for the Blaziken. So kind of just hoping that they don't attack with that. Actually, oh no, I can't knock that out either. I would just have to research and try and get into the Snorlax if they attack with Blaziken, but like all these other decks I've been playing against, they're going with the Wellspring thing. Hopefully this doesn't last too long because I'm not as happy. I don't know. I even played more games today to try to get a better game for the second like full game, but it was just like all this in the other deck that I showed you. They do only move 20 damage off their Fez, which I can't remember how much HP the Dubwool has, but I don't think that was like the greatest idea in the world, because yeah, why not just move 30 so that they're also able to knock out the Dubwool if I evolve it. And I researched getting to Switch and end up winning the game. Unfortunately, my opponent didn't really do too much. I think that they could have attacked with Blaziken at some point. I'm not really sure why they didn't. I would have had a pretty hard time knocking it out. Maybe they were a little too worried that I would just be able to easily find Snorlax, but the Sob angle does not work because I have a lot of switches in the deck. But yeah, this deck is definitely pretty fun, pretty solid. I'm still working on the list a little bit. Like I said, the Cram could maybe be a rescue board or something like that. But other than that, it's been feeling pretty solid. Yeah, definitely try it out. Let me know what you think in the comments below. What have been the decks that you guys have been liking the most? And like or dislike, comment, subscribe. Take care and have a good one.